Well, the political battle to be the next Speaker of the House is already brewing inside the GOP. Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz is among those leading the charge against current party leader Kevin McCarthy. He is pushing Ohio firebrand Jim Jordan to run for the speakership. That's after Gaetz announced support for Arizona Congressman Andy Biggs earlier this month. And it matters because Republicans only have a slim majority in the House, and that means that Republicans can only afford to lose a few votes. Joining me now, Melik Abdul. He's a Republican strategist joining us. Appreciate your time. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, and Merry belated Christmas.
Yes, Merry belated Christmas. I'm still going with it. I had pumpkin pie for dinner last night. But let's talk politics. Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz among House conservatives calling for another answer to Kevin McCarthy as Speaker. And we know on Christmas Eve, he tweeted, "All I want for Christmas is Jim Jordan to realize he should be Speaker of the House." So what is behind this?
Yeah, so I think it's, on the one hand, I think it's a very good thing that the Republican Party is having a leadership fight. There's a fight within the party on with the direction that we should go. It's a little different than what's happening on the Democratic side, where Hakeem Jeffries doesn't seem to actually face any opposition. So I do believe it's a good thing. On the other hand, it's a very small minority, maybe 5 or 6 people. The challenge, as we know, is that Republicans will only have 200, I believe, 22 seats, 4 seats above the 218 threshold. And so what happens if McCarthy can't get 5 Republicans to vote for him? I think it will ultimately happen, but it's not a great thing if it doesn't. So I think there's a little jockeying that Gaetz is doing here. He's always been probably on the farther right wing of the party, and that's okay. We have space for those too. But when it comes to leadership, I'm perfectly fine with McCarthy, and I do hope and expect that he'll end up becoming Speaker.
What is the source of the rift between leadership and conservatives in the House?
Yeah, so I think it's long-standing. So think of the various caucuses that we have. We have the Freedom Caucus. Prior to the Freedom Caucus and many others that we're seeing now, there was this Tea Party movement. So the Republican Party has always had these various factions. I think for people like Gaetz and many other, the dyed-in-the-wool conservative or even the farther right wing of the party, they are attracted to Jim Jordan. I don't think that Jim Jordan will mount any sort of challenge to Kevin McCarthy because he does play ball at the end of the game. At the end of the day, I like Jim Jordan. I think he does represent a faction of the party that's very important, and their voices need to be heard. But I'm fine with the Kevin McCarthy and maybe a Scalise in that number 2 seat, because Scalise also is part of that Jim Jordan world.
Okay, well, the omnibus bill we know brought quite a lot of disagreement to the forefront for Republicans. Is this perhaps a preview of what's to come next year?
I think this too is an important fight. A lot of the things that we've been talking about, as you see, that there doesn't seem to be much disagreement when it comes to funding our military. The $800 or so billion package for a Department of Defense that has about $1.3 trillion annual budget. That's significant, but I do believe that there are some things that we can do, whether it's on definitely on the Republican side. And I think that's part of what's driving it. This debate between are we spending too much money or some of the other things that the base of the party wants. But again, I think it's a healthy conversation for Republicans to have. We do need to have this fight. And I do hope that some of those voices that Jim Jordan and Scalise and many others, I do hope that they have a voice in the party, because not having a voice is part of the consternation that many conservatives feel, is that the party is not representing their needs.
And meanwhile, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell criticizing the party's rightward lunge in the midterm, saying that the party just didn't do enough to attract independent voters. Is he right?
So looking at the numbers, yes, he's absolutely right. But it bears repeating, and people haven't really focused on this. Mitch McConnell endorsed one of those candidates, Herschel Walker, in October of 2021. Georgia's primary wasn't until May. So Mitch McConnell needs to include himself in the number of people who were backing, as he later said, not, bad candidates or what have you. Republicans all rallied around Herschel Walker. There was losses that we had, obviously. But at the end of the day, Republicans are now poised to have the same number of seats that Democrats have, 222 seats. So we will have the majority. Mitch McConnell, Rick Scott, and many of those others. On the Senate side, we didn't get the Senate, but we do have the House. And so at this point, it seems like we're having a divided government, but I don't take Mitch McConnell seriously in that sense.
All right. Appreciate the perspective. Republican strategist Melik Abdul, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.